Greetings, folks. Scott Galbraith here, also known as the Great Scott, and once again, welcome to the Great Scott's Roundtable. And today we have a very special roundtable. Now, some of you might be wondering why I am looking so dapper or so dressed up. Well, it's not because I have a magic show. It's because you want to look good when you are in the company of royalty and princesses. And today we have a couple of princess actresses who are going to tell us all about being princesses for kids' parties. Unfortunately, I'm not going to have much luck in the Prince Charming department because I happen to know both of my guests today have already found their Prince Charming. So unfortunately, we're not going to be going down that road. Also, who would have known that finding princesses to be interviewed would be so hard? This will be the first time in the history of the Great Scots Actors Roundtable that we will have a panel of only two. But I couldn't have asked for two better princesses to join us. Both of these ladies I have worked with before, and I consider them both very good friends in the world of acting and otherwise. First of all, she was on my Actors Roundtable that dealt with standardized patient work. This gal has worked with me on several gigs. She's played everything from Black Widow to Wonder Woman. And today she is coming to us as the original Disney princess, Snow White. Please welcome back to my roundtable, Miss Allison Mattiotto. How are you doing, Allison?
Great. It's so lovely to be here. Thank you for having me again, Scotty.
Thank you. And you're dressed up. Can you stand up? Show everybody your Snow White costume there. Let me see what we got here. Oh, very nice. Very nice.
So yeah. I really broke out the big guns today, and this is my deluxe Snow White costume.
Yeah, you look like somebody pulled you right out of the Disney movie. It's very nice. Very nice. Yes. And next up, we have a gal who I have worked with before. Actually, she once played Mrs. Claus to my Santa Claus at a kids' night at Chick-fil-A. And today she is coming to us dressed as Cinderella. And this is the embarrassing moment where I realized that I forgot to ask her how to correctly pronounce her last name. Olivia, coming to us as Cinderella. Will you please tell me, what is your name, please, Olivia?
Of course. My name is Olivia Giroux-Galpin.
Gaplin. Sorry about that. Well, I probably would have butchered that even if I had asked you the correct way to pronounce it. So thank you for being here.
It's a fond childhood memory of mine having my last name be butchered. That's why I held on to it when I got married and hyphenated my name. So
there you go. There you go. Actually, that's one of the reasons why I go by the Great Scott instead of Scott Galbraith. Galbraith gets pronounced every possible way that you can imagine. And you are coming to us in your Cinderella outfit. Very nice. Very nice. No fashion show walk. Well, you're kind of wired there, so you might unplug.
I'm a little constricted by space, unfortunately. I would stand up, but you can always look it up after the show. So
there you go. There you go. Well, I thank you both for being here to discuss. Like I mentioned to you before we started, last time I had a couple actors here who have dedicated their lives to playing Santa Claus for kids. So I thought it would be interesting to take a look at another area of kids entertainment that I've been involved with. Now, of course, I have done shows with you guys before. Sometimes people want the magician and they want the princess or the superhero character as well. And so why don't we get right into it? One of the things that I did last night, did you both get that video I sent you of my niece and her production of Frozen Jr.?
Yes.
Yes. She's quite the talented gal, isn't she?
Love her. She's
very adorable. Yeah.
She is adorable. She's adorable. Well, you know what? She's only 11 right now. And of course, we're in the middle of a worldwide pandemic where the parties are kind of scarce anyway. But one thing that I wanted to ask you both is, you're someone who's like my niece's age. And she said something like, I want to be a princess when I grow up. And then she sees people who do what you guys do. Eventually, she comes to that age where she knows that you are actresses, not the real thing. So my question is, someone like my niece, I have no idea if my niece is going to go down this road. I just wanted to show you the video to make a better example. Let's say that somebody like her who has been involved in her, theater and has grown up with a crazy uncle like me who has provided princesses for events and stuff and has seen behind the curtain. Let's say, hypothetically speaking, once she got out of high school, she wanted to do something like this. What advice would you have for a girl who wants to be a princess when she grows up?
So I would say that I didn't go about it as deliberately as some might. I will say that I have had friends who've auditioned for the Disney princess roles, and I've heard that that's very competitive. If you want to be a princess at Disney World or Disneyland. So I think that they might be moving away from the current model, but I've heard that just right off the bat, they will have a bunch of girls, and if you don't look or embody the way that they think that Snow White or Cinderella or Rapunzel or Moana looks, then um, just they excuse you and then they whittle it down just from, it's almost like casting if you're an actor. And so you're limited partly by just your own physiology. But then I think that she's absolutely going about it the right way. If you can sing, because princesses love to sing and dance. So if you have a beautiful voice and you're able to carry a tune, I think that helps you get your foot in the door. And then just being able or loving children and loving kids and being around kids, because princesses love animals and kids, of course.
Well, thank you very much, Allie. Olivia, do you have anything to add to that question?
I honestly couldn't have said it better myself. And much like Allie, I was a little bit, I don't want to say late to the princess game, but it didn't really occur to me that this was or could potentially be part of an actor's career. I started off dancing, actually. I wanted to be a professional dancer. That didn't really work out for me, so I moved into acting a little bit. And one of my mentors, one of my first mentors, gave me a great piece of advice in terms of just kind of getting your face out there at least, which then led to this princess work, which is audition for everything, regardless of conflicts, regardless of whether or not you might be right for the role. Just audition for everything. People will get to know your face. If you have a good work ethic and professional attitude, that goes eons as well. So definitely that. And seconding what Allie said before, if you want to be a princess, you definitely need to know how to interact with kids. I was lucky that I was able to help out my dance teacher actually in some of her creative movement classes, that sort of thing. So I learned how to talk to kids pretty effortlessly. One thing that I think kids get very, very nervous too when they suddenly meet their heroes. One of the last parties I did, actually, I was Elsa, birthday girl, couldn't have been sweeter, and her best friend started off being very playful, very wanting to do everything, and then she just got a huge case of the shies and just like didn't want anything to do with anything. So being able to get down on their level a little bit and say, it's okay, you can be shy, it's okay, that sort of thing. So everything Allie said and more, basically, is what I'd say. Yes.
Actually, these days, like Allie and I both went. Olivia, have you ever heard of sugar plum parties?
Yeah.
I think I have. Yes, it rings a faint bell.
Yeah,
Yes.
Keith and sugar plum parties have kind of been a godsend to some of us kid performers who I've kind of become his resident magician, and he's come up with a formula called drive-by parties where we basically always stay out front. And I don't know how this formula is going to adjust once we get into colder weather. I think there's a good chance we could be doing it through the fall, but once it starts snowing, we might be taking a break. But anyway, so basically the princess model that he's been using is basically waving from a distance. You don't really make much contact. There are some kids who have broken down and run up and I think hug some of the princesses, but for the most part, they try to do the social distancing thing, kind of like the drive-by parades you see a lot of people doing. Is what they're doing now. Now, ironically, Olivia, you actually kind of already answered what would have been my second question, but when you were answering that first one, I was going to ask, I was saying, say someone like my niece, and for the record, if my niece is watching this, we have no idea if this is the direction she's going to go or not. I mean, a lot of things are up in the air right now. I was just kind of using her as an example. One of the questions I put here was, how do you become, because this is not, a lot of people don't realize, one of the things I hated seeing in a movie was Charlie Sheen did this movie where he's being chased in a car the entire film. And he said that at one point, the only job he could get was doing clowns for a kid's birthday party. These are not jobs you fill out an application for. Not just anybody can do them. You know what I mean? And the fact that the movie made it sound like that party entertainers are a application job just was like, I got that. It's kind of like when the cops see the Lethal Weapon film and they're like, you know, being a policeman is not like that. Clearly, whoever wrote that movie didn't do his research. But that's a roundabout way of saying was, but this isn't also a job that since you don't fill out an application for it, I was going to ask, you know, how does one end up being a princess? Now, Olivia, you were saying that someone gave you advice to just audition for anything.
Mhm.
I mean, like, Ally, you mentioned when you were on the round table last time how you got into standardized patient work. How did you get into this work?
Well, I would say that the first time I played a princess was actually for a piece of theater that I was part of back when I lived in Los Angeles. It was called Happily Whatever After.
Good
And
title.
you both are probably familiar with some of the original fairy tales. You know, if you read Hans Christian Andersen or the Brothers Grimm, the popular versions of these fairy tales, there have been certain liberties taken to make them more palatable for children and maybe just the population. So this was kind of a tongue-in-cheek, fun, probably PG-13 rated play. Kind of, it was almost like the backstory behind the fairy tales. And I played the OG princess, at least the Disney OG princess, once again in that rendition. I was Snow White. And in this version, Happily Whatever After, instead of the 7 dwarves, it was 7 thieves.
Oh,
And
really?
I think that in the original fairy tale, she wasn't with the dwarves, who are so cute, and I love the dwarves so much. But I think that they were thieves that she took sanctuary with. So anyway, that was the first time I played a princess. It was so much fun. And then when I moved back to New England, I think that a princess was needed to walk in one of the parades that you probably walked before, Scott, the Swampscott 4th of July parade.
Right.
So that was my first time walking as a princess. Again, it was Snow White. And from then on, I started working with Boston Party Adventures. And I was really whatever princess needed to be portrayed.
I think that was that the parade I first met you at, actually, because I met you for the first time doing a parade for Boston Party Adventures.
You did, but I think it was Natick.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. For those of you who are watching in other parts of the country, we're all in the Massachusetts area, so these are towns in the Massachusetts area that we're talking about here. Now, one of the things, incidentally, a little piece of trivia here. Dopey Doc, Sleepy Sneak, you know all the 7 dwarf names? None of those names were in the original Brothers Grimm book. Those names were given to the dwarves by Disney when they made Snow White. Not a lot of people know that, but it is true. Now, I have a question here, and I suspect I might know what Olivia's answer is going to be. But we'll see if I win a bet with myself in just a second here. Obviously, you do a lot of these parties, and one thing I've learned is that no 2 parties are alike. What works at one location won't work at another, and such and such. Do either of you have an interesting story about doing a party that you would like to share?
Oh gosh, this is me trying to rack my memory too, because sometimes the parties bleed into each other.
Right. Oh yeah, they all mesh together after a while.
Yes. One I suppose that really stands out was one that happened maybe 2-3 years ago at this point. I went to, which character was it? I think it was Elsa again. Little girl turning 5 years old, real sweetheart, and all of her friends were just absolutely awesome. There was like a little boy there too who like wanted to be included so bad that I think the little girl said, "Here, wear my extra pink dress so you can be a princess too." He was an absolute sweetheart. It was one of those parties where everything just melted together and clicked so beautifully. It like became the the standard to which I would hold myself for all future parties. Not only that, but as I was getting ready to leave, gathering all of my stuff and preparing to leave, the little girl came up to me and said, "Thank you so much, Elsa, for coming to my party. I made you a thank you card." Handmade thank you card.
Those
and
are the best, aren't
just,
they?
I started welling up. It was so sweet. And, you know, you're on cloud 9 for the rest of the day. So that party, I think I can actually see it from where I'm sitting right over there. It's like purple, it's gorgeous. So that would have to be one of my more memorable ones, I suppose. Yes.
Well, I didn't win a bet with myself. Let's ask Allie first, and then I will tell you what I thought you might say. Allie, do you have a story you would like to share?
One of them that stands out, or I think that just in general, one of the reasons that I like to portray Snow White and Belle is that it's my natural hair color because I'm not wearing a wig. And so there have been times where I've portrayed Elsa and Rapunzel and ones where I can't use my natural hair. And so I feel like the little kids sometimes are very curious about that. And they'll say, is that your real hair? And of course it is. You know, absolutely. And then they'll say, wait, no, it's not. I can see your hair underneath it. And I'm just, oh no, that's just my roots. You know, I think that they're really fixated sometimes with the veracity of the situation. And so it's always hard because if I'm playing Elsa, of course they'll want you to show them your powers. And so I'll say, oh, you know, I can't use my powers outside of Arendelle. And I feel like you always have to have these explanations in your back pocket or reasons, because there are some kids, there was a party I did where, you know, they wanted to know everything about just Anna and Sven and Olaf. And I think it's really an asset if you're good at improv.
Right. Absolutely. I love those parties personally. And this is probably going to sound a little bit evil, but when those questions come up, I try using really big words as answers, because then they're just like, they don't get...
No, it's good. No, I'm there with you because, you know, I said I did a roundtable with Santa Claus actors, and I mentioned on that one that I've also done Batman. Do you know what Batman and Santa Claus have in common? They both have vehicles that kids would love to see. Yes. Santa has his sled, Batman has his Batmobile. Now, the key to both of these things is, it's a simple rule I live by. Don't give the kids anything to go search for. One of the biggest mistakes a Santa impersonator can say is, like I was doing a Santa Claus party once, and the grandfather was the one bringing me in, and he goes, hey, I think I hear reindeer on the roof, and I'm like, don't say that! Because the minute you say that, you are inviting the children to go outside and look on the roof to try to find the sled, which they will do. So the rule is, don't give them anything to look for. Don't say the sled is on the roof. If you're Batman, don't say the car is around the corner. Say something like, oh, I couldn't, getting the bat suit through customs was hard enough. I flew here as Bruce Wayne and changed once I got here. I drove a rental car. If you guys want to see that, that's fine, but I don't have the Batmobile with me here today. You know what I mean?
There's probably one exception. There's probably one exception to that rule, I would say, and that's Wonder Woman. She has her invisible jet.
There you go. There you go. That would work. That would work. Now, I said just a moment ago, Olivia, that I lost a bet with myself. Now, I hope I'm not getting too personal here, but I'm pretty sure you're just a Cinderella right now, correct? Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure you are wearing the same attire you did when you got engaged. Am I right about that?
Oh, I love that story. Yes.
Yes. Please share, because your husband, your boyfriend at the time, your husband, who was your boyfriend at the time. It's okay. He's your husband. I'll just say your husband. Your husband, Christian, he's an actor as well, and you guys actually work together. So he actually, tell us a little bit about this situation, or this story, rather.
Gladly. So what had happened was I got an email from a lady who, well, she still does, just in a different capacity, was the booking person for the Mystery Cafe, which does murder mystery dinner theaters, mostly in Massachusetts, but we can travel to like New Hampshire, Connecticut, wherever you need us, we'll go. Right. So she emailed me and said, hey, I just came across this client. She's turning 21 years old. She's a huge Disney fan. She would love to have a princess just come and sing happy birthday for her. Basically a walk-in telegram, if you will. Right. Very simple gig, easy peasy. Christian's going to be there as like DJ Prince Charming or something like that to DJ the parties. So he can intro you in and stuff like that. So I said, absolutely, great. Send me the info. I'm happy to do it. So I got all dressed up and I drove my car sort of to the back of the venue where the employees park, a venue called the MIT Endicott House, which, you know, we've done a lot of gigs at. Awesome, beautiful, gorgeous mansion. You should check it out.
Right.
Anyway, so he comes out to my car to get me. He's dressed as Prince Charming. He looks very lovely. So we walk up around the back steps onto this terrace.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I had already been told that there was going to be a second party there that I might have to walk through to get to the other one. And there were folks sitting on the terrace all wearing masks for some bizarre reason. But at that point, it didn't really register. I'm like, I'm in the zone. I'm getting ready to go to work. I'm Cinderella. I'm not Olivia. I'm Cinderella. So I'm just like kind of walking around like this. And then suddenly he kind of stops. So I turn around and face him and I think, oh, there must be a candid camera person somewhere. I'll do a nice little curtsy. He like spun me around and then he got down on one knee. I'm still posing, completely unaware of what's going on. Then he says my real name, which is like completely out of sorts because why would just that?
Yeah.
And then it, oh my God. Oh, this is it. Oh my gosh, this is it. So, you know, will you marry me? Yes, I will. I got down on my knees too and just started hugging and kissing him. But in the back of my mind, I'm still thinking, but we still have a gig to do, right? So should we like, is he doing this now? Do we need to go or what? Then I finally get up and I saw my mother in the corner. And that's when it occurred to me, oh, there's no gig. I'm getting engaged. And the rest is history.
Yeah. Now, the only downside is that you didn't get paid either. So no, I'm just kidding.
It was worth it. It was so
I'm
worth
kidding. Yes. Well, actually, you know what, Allie? Just real quickly, there was one other memory that I do have of working with you, Olivia. That was one that would fall into this category of, you know, stories or whatever. We were working for Armand at Urban Circus Events for a Christmas event, an event I'm pretty sure is not going to happen this year, given how crowded the banquet hall was. But anyway, you were Elsa and I was Olaf. Okay.
Mhm.
And I'm standing next to you trying to, you know, say all the hi, I'm Olaf and I like warm hugs thing. And there was this little boy in a suit. And you got down like on your knees so that you would be at his level, and he literally like falls into you hugging you.
Yes.
And you were patting him on the back, and this goes on for a little while, and you look up at the parents and go, I think we're going to be here for a few minutes. And you were just so patient with him. It was the most adorable thing I'd ever seen. He would not let go of you. He just thought you were great. Remember that?
I do remember that now. Yes, now that you mention it, you know, every kid needs their moment with the princess. So it's just like, oh.
Exactly.
So absolutely, yeah.
So one of the other things I was going to ask, and you know, we kind of touched on this a little bit already, but what would you say is probably, and Allie, since we've been kind of telling Olivia stories here for the past 5 minutes, we'll let you go first on this one. You said that you've been asked a lot. You kind of already answered this, but I was going to ask, you know, what's the most unusual question kids have asked you? You said that they've mentioned your wig and stuff before. Anything that tops that, really?
You know, I would say definitely, for certain, they've asked me how to get to the locations I live. So, you know, they'll ask me, well, we want to come visit you in Arundel. How do we get to Arundel? Or they'll ask, you know, it's a little bit easier, you know, I would say with Belle. Actually, that's not true either, because Belle actually is from, I usually say that she lives with the beast in France, in the chateau. Okay. So they can actually get there. So I'll usually say, oh, you know what? You can just Google it. And that's actually something that you need to do, is to Google, you know, where you, or, you know, if you type in, where does Belle live? What will come up? Because I think that with Santa Claus, at least, you can actually write to Santa Claus and address the mail to an actual address. And I actually am not sure where those letters.
I'll have to check that out.
I know because I was reading an article about Santa Claus, and I think that if you address a letter to Santa Claus and put this address on it, it's the North Pole. It won't come back to you. It will be delivered.
Hmm.
I think
So
I've heard that too, actually. Yeah, I can't remember where, but that does sound familiar.
I think those have been interesting. Some of the kids have actually asked things like, you know, a little bit more provocative, I guess. I once was asked the question, do you and Prince Charming sleep in the same room? Um,
Kids these days.
which I said, we do sleep in the same room, but we sleep in twin beds, you know, side by side. So I kind of felt like I took maybe the Lucille Ball, you know,
Yeah.
Desi Arnaz, or
Very Lucy Ricky, yeah.
Yeah.
of what's
Or Dick Van,
happening.
or Rob and Laura Petrie from the Dick Van Dyke Show.
Exactly.
Actually, if you want to split hairs here, according to something I once heard, technically Prince Charming is Cinderella's prince. Snow White's prince is actually never given a name. He's actually referred to as the prince.
That's right.
If you're
You're
looking,
absolutely
Prince Eric is the Little Mermaid. Well, the list goes on. You get the general idea.
that little girls actually, and little boys too, sometimes they get worried regarding the Little Mermaid story because they'll
Hmm.
say, do you still see your, you know, sisters and your dad? And I'll say, oh yeah, of course they come, you know, visit me, and I'm still able to go swimming. But that's actually, I'm usually in a mermaid tale, so it's
Yeah.
kind of like, well, you can just dive in the ocean and go visit them.
Yeah. This is gonna sound so weird, and I'm sure I'm gonna get flack for this, but of all the Little Mermaid movies, believe it or not, is one thing that I have a small issue with, believe it or not. There was a phase that Disney went through of making direct-to-video sequels to all of their classic films. The Little Mermaid 2, I thought, was actually the one they got right. I liked seeing the movie about, it's been panned by every critic, but I actually liked Return to the Sea. Maybe I'm just the odd man out there. I liked the story about seeing Ariel's daughter. What I couldn't get over was they got most of the original voice cast back, with the exception of Flounder and Prince Eric, which was awesome. So about a year later, a teaser for Little Mermaid 3 comes out before another thing, and I'm like, okay, well, this will be cool. When it's finally released, it's a prequel called Ariel's Beginning that takes place 10 years before the original movie. And I'm like,
Mhm.
I don't care about 10 years before the original movie. I wanted to see Little Mermaid 3. Darn it. Blast Disney. Why did they do that? What'd you say,
Yeah,
Allie?
I feel like they kind of tricked you, or that's kind of a tricky thing to do.
Yeah, well, they released the teaser with Little Mermaid footage that they had like chopped up, or that they had chopped up, whatever. And it was before they had filmed. Well, I say filmed, before they had drawn anything or decided what it was going to be. So they were still calling it Little Mermaid 3 back then. The title got changed to Little Mermaid Ariel's Beginning during while they were deciding what it was going to be. So it's almost like they released the teaser before they decided what the film was going to be. But what do you expect from Disney?
Did you ever see the one? I think it was called The Return of Jafar. I don't know if
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
Oh,
and actually, to be honest with you, now that the new Aladdin movie is it has been such a success, they're talking about, of course, I hate to say this, but it's all talk right now, because even though technically Hollywood is allowed to film, they can't get anybody to insure them, so they can't film anything because of Corona. They're already planning an Aladdin sequel, and it might even be called Return of Jafar, but you can't do the Return of Jafar storyline they did for the cartoon because of what happened in this film. So Disney actually has a chance at a do-over here. They actually have a chance at getting something right that they royally screwed up before. Yeah, but Return of Jafar was actually the first one. That was the one that spawned. That was the one that spawned all these. Somebody at Disney said, Jafar is one of the few villains we left alive. We could make a sequel where he comes back. But Disney didn't want to shell out the money to put it in the theaters, so they did a cheap cartoon version of it. And then they were like, hey, if we did this with one, we can do it with everybody. And that's how we got all of the direct-to-video sequels during that era. But anyway, you'll have to forgive me. I'm getting off on a few movie rabbit trails here. Let's see what we have here next. Okay, now I put down this question. I'm guessing this next question, the answer might be no. But the truth is, because I only work with princesses, I honestly don't know this. I'm a magician, and the Society of American Magicians has like magician seminars that we go to learn how to do magic tricks, okay? The New England Santa Society actually has something called Santa Camp. Is there anything like this for people who do princess work? Is there any like seminars on how to be princesses? Is there any like princess conventions or anything? That's because I don't know because I would have no reason to know.
Outside of the training that licensed Disney princesses at the parks and the cruises get, I honestly say probably not. Not that I've heard of personally, at least. I very well could be wrong, but I haven't heard of anything.
Mm-hmm. Allie, you heard anything in the pipeline, or pretty much the same thing?
So outside of, I would say, sometimes showcasing at parties like that, how to curtsy and how to wave like a princess, which is very basic training that you would give. I feel like I've actually thought of that exact question and really ruminated, there could be a business opportunity here when it comes to princess training. And it almost feels like when I think of princess training, it's almost, I guess, like what you would think of in the past they don't really do anymore, almost like manners training of how to hold a teacup in a certain way, or how to set a table, or elocution, or pronunciation, that kind of thing. So I thought that it could be revamped a little bit, and I've thought about, how you could kind of take it into the modern day.
No, you might be onto something there. You never know. One other thing that's worth mentioning, I actually just thought of this. Olivia, you were actually nice enough. I mentioned this during your intro. You were nice enough. You and your husband Christian do Santa and Mrs. Claus during Christmas. Yeah.
We do, yeah.
Yes, and you were nice enough to actually play Mrs. Claus to my Santa one time at Chick-fil-A in Framingham, because they had asked me to get a Mrs. Claus, and they gave me like a month's notice. And rule number one is, okay, don't train somebody from scratch. Call somebody you already know who has the suits. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like I might have called you, Allie, but I knew you didn't have a suit, and I didn't have a Mrs. Claus suit to give you.
Visit you guys that night.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's exactly what I was getting at. I don't remember exactly when it happened, but you learn very quickly that this costume entertainment community, especially here in Boston, is not really that enormous. And I had actually worked with you, Olivia, several times through Armand, and I had worked with you, Allie, through Joey. And then I don't remember who it was, but I sent one of you a picture of the other, and you were like, "Hey, I know her." and so how was it? So how was it you guys met again, or how did you know each other?
That was through Cambridge Historical Tours, which is very similar to the Boston Freedom Trail, only it does the same thing across the Harvard campus and also the town of Cambridge itself. I started there. I was one of the original tour guides when they started doing things in 2012. This is going back a few years, obviously. I don't remember when you were brought on board, Allie, but it was 2014 or something like that? Yeah.
It was a few years after I think it had been running, and I'm trying to remember the historical figure you portrayed.
Anne Whitney.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Who were you, Allie?
I was Henrietta Swan Leavitt, and she was an astronomer at Harvard. She was known as one of the lady computers that helped map the constellations. And we were wearing pretty beautiful, impressive costumes back then.
Yes.
So that could have been part of it, I guess, in a way, our princess training.
There you go.
The interactive training that you have to have with actually like tearing down that fourth wall that you would use on stage as an actor, and being able to talk to somebody yet staying in character was a big basis probably for both of us when it comes to this stuff as well. Being able to stick to your facts and stuff like that, and also roll with the punches, any questions that might come up just randomly. So yes, it played a big part, I think, if I can speak for both of us.
Definitely. And I've never been in better shape, because we would walk around, the tours were around 45 minutes to an hour long, and we would do many tours a day. Mm-hmm. So you can imagine walking around in the hot sun for that amount of time.
On cobblestones too, for no less, which really does a number on your back. I'd finish Yeah, I'd finished a 3-day tour and just I think they had like a little sofa thing in their break room for a while, and I'd fall asleep on that for like 20 minutes before I could actually get up and go to my car. It's exhausting, but fun.
It really was. I learned a lot.
You know, you talk about walking around like for hours and the heat and stuff. There's one thing that this whole world situation with the pandemic that's going on right now has taught me is that, you know, I forgot that it was small groups in their backyards that were always my forte for parties. You know what I mean? I kind of knew that there weren't going to be many town carnivals this summer, and I'm amazed at how much I haven't missed them, to be honest with you. I'm amazed at how much I haven't. I've realized, you know, I really do like small audiences. I really do. I will take the backyard birthday party of a family over a auditorium any day for whatever reason. It's just I feel like it's like a more intimate setting or whatever. And you had mentioned, Allie, that you came to visit me and Olivia after we had done the Santa and Mrs. Claus, which was very painstaking because, you know, you're both very busy ladies and you're both either married or engaged to very busy gentlemen as well. Like, for example, Olivia, I've worked with you several times and I've worked with Christian several times, but I have never been in the same room as you and your husband at the same time. Armand just happened to put me on gigs with you by yourself or me with gigs with Christian by yourself. So there was this running gag, man, am I ever going to see the happy couple together? And I still to this day have not. I have gotten together with, I actually tried to get both of you together with your other halves together once, and that was just, it took everything just to get Allie to reunite with you after a couple of years at Chick-fil-A because we were just all so darn busy. What can I say?
It can take, I feel like doing this kind of work can really take a hit on your social life because I feel like, of course, many of the parties are on the weekends, which if people worked a typical 9-to-5 job, I mean, even so, many of my friends who are working remotely now, they're still working typical Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 hours.
Right.
And so it can be difficult logistically. There have been times actually where I've stopped by to a friend's party before I have to go to another party. And if there are kids at the party of my friends, from friends who have kids, I've ended up interacting more with the kids because sometimes I'll have my balloons on me. And so I'll end up twisting the balloons and interacting with the kids of my friends. And then I'll go on to the next party of the kids and I'll just think, oh my gosh, I didn't even really have a chance to catch up with my adult friends, but I'm sure they're glad for the break.
Yeah.
You ever get anything like that, Olivia? I mean, and you of course. I mean, how often do you and your husband work together? How often have do you guys work separately or paired more?
It's 50-50, I think. I'd say most of the things that we do together are the murder mystery dinner theaters that, of course, not when there's a pandemic going on, but yeah, we do, I'd say most of the things that we do together are those. We also do like team building and facilitating events as well for this company called Team Bonding, which is a sister company of the Mystery Cafe. They're run by the same person, David Goldstein. We've done other appearances as well, but for things that more involve like children's entertainment, birthday parties, that sort of thing, we do seem to end up on different ends of the spectrum, I suppose. I'm the one who goes and does little girl stuff. He's the one who does little boy stuff mostly. So it's it really just depends on the nature of the party, I think. But I'd say a good 5 times out of 10 we're working together. Another 5 times out of 10 we're not. But it's nice
For
to have
anybody
someone.
I'm sorry. What'd you say? What'd you say?
I was just saying it's still wonderful to have someone to come home to at the end of the day saying, well, this happened, that happened, this was great, that was not so great, and say, yep, I've been there too. Let's watch TV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the flip side of that coin, if anybody's wondering why I didn't ask Allie this question, is because Allie, you and your other half are the epitome of the expression opposites attract. Your fiance, he's not in entertainment at all, right?
There have been a couple of times where there's been maybe an emergency or not even the need for someone who maybe is a prince, but just somebody who's needed to wear one of those big costumes. And he'll say, he's never had to because it's never been that big of an emergency. And he'll say, you know, if you really need me to, if there's no one else, pretty much in the entire world who can do it, I will do it. But it's yeah, it's really not his cup of tea. So I think that he would help if it was that dire of a situation. But otherwise, I think there's people who enjoy that kind of work far, far more.
Mhm. I've always thought, I'm not married. I always thought if I did get married, though, I would have to marry a gal who is in entertainment only because I have let this be such a big part of my life. I mean, here we are. Parties have gone down, and I started doing these roundtables just because I have to be around somehow. Anyway, I realize that I still have 2 questions left that we haven't gotten to here yet. What would you say, and you might have answered this a little bit, what is the best part about being a princess?
After you, yeah.
So I would say I had an experience once like Olivia's where a little girl had written an invitation to Belle to come to her birthday party, and her mom had said that she had mailed or gotten the message to Belle somehow. And so the little girl actually knew that Belle was coming, and she had written, I think, or created a drawing of Belle. And that was just really sweet. I feel like when I was growing up, this kind of thing didn't seem as common. I don't remember ever going to a party with a real live princess there. I remember meeting them when we went to Disney World. So I know for me, I would say I was actually a little bit of a tomboy. So when I went to Disney World, I loved the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I met my little turtle, and I still have my picture with him. I love him so much. And
You know which one it was?
What?
Which turtle was it?
It's Michelangelo, the orange bandana.
Yes, that's Mikey.
Yeah,
Continue.
Mikey. And so I feel like for me that meant everything. I was so excited. I was like that little boy who wouldn't let go of Olivia when she was Elsa. When I was with Mikey, I did not want to leave. I wanted to stay and get more pictures. So I know how much it means. I remember how much it meant to me. So I'm glad that I can kind of do that for kids.
Olivia?
The best part of this job, being a princess, I would say is definitely, being a part of that kid's special day. It is their birthday, after all. I'd say, 9 times out of 10. And it's a big, 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 big deal for them. A lot of kids I've noticed, turning 4 or 5 years old, especially if they have, friends who are a little bit older, is a huge deal. It means so much to them. So being able to just give a little bit more to that experience of theirs means so much to me. I take it very personally too. The fact that, just being able to reiterate to them, yes, this is your special day. And if I'm special to you, if Cinderella is special to you, if she can be here to just celebrate that with you, then all the more reason to have this wonderful time with you and celebrate. So reminding the kid how special they are and reminding them how special their day is, I think, one of the best things about this job.
Olivia, I swear you have ESP. You always end up answering the next question before I get to it. The last, either that, or I just didn't put my thinking cap on hard enough for this round table and think up different enough questions. The last and final question I had was what do you hope kids get out of your visits? Which is kind of what you just said.
So I think that when I'm a princess, another one of the reasons why I love Snow White so much is there's that famous phrase from her fairy tale, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? And the wicked stepmother asks that, and she's so beautiful, but she isn't as beautiful as Snow White. And I always thought that was because she, not necessarily just at face value, but because Snow White is so kind and loving and compassionate and empathetic. And so I think at the end of the day, what makes the princesses beautiful are that they are kind and loving, and I think that it really embodies all those cliched expressions. Beauty is only skin deep. Pretty is as pretty does. So I hope that the kids realize that that's how you become a princess or a prince, is just using the golden rule. Treat others as you yourself would want to be treated, and going through life with love and kindness. And then all little girls are princesses, all little boys are princes.
Well, like I said, Olivia, you kind of touched on that in the last one. Do you have anything to add to that?
Everything that Ally said and more again. And one thing I usually, when I close my parties, because at that point everyone's, usually sitting down and having a piece of cake at that point, which is a good time to kind of make an exit and leave. Especially because sometimes after an hour, the novelty of having a princess there does start to wear off a little bit, and you're just one of the grown-ups.
Right.
So something I try to remember to leave the kids with after having an awesome time with them is I need you all to promise me something. Do you know how to keep a promise? Yes, we know. Never, ever, ever stop being your awesome selves. Reminding them that, they are awesome. When I was a kid, and that's probably a little bit of a personal agenda for me, but because I never had the best self-esteem when I was a kid, even as
Join the club.
Even as I was dressing up, and just having my own princess fun as a child, I still never really had the best self-esteem. And, none of us, I think, are the type of person to, or the right person to teach kids about rules and things like that. Rules are different from each household. That's, what the parents and guardians are there to do. But if you can remind kids that they're awesome no matter what, then I think that goes a long way. So I'll ask them, never, ever, ever stop being your awesome selves. Can you do that for me? There's a lot of cheering. It's like, okay, one more group hug, then I have to go. And everyone calls around, stuff like that, big group hug, and that's it. So reminding kids that they are awesome no matter what anyone says, I think is very important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and hearing stories like that is one of the reasons why, one way or another, this pandemic cannot last. We got to get back to where we can actually do that again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I have no doubt that we will. It's just a question of when and how long it will be before we do. But in the meantime, we'll keep on keeping kids happy from a social distance. So, Ally, Olivia, I want to thank you both for being here for this Princess Roundtable. Thank you, Snow White. Thank you, Cinderella. And thank you all for all of you out there who are watching. I am Scott Galbraith, also known as The Great Scott, and thank you for joining us here today on the Great Scots Roundtable.